This is TWIS, This Week in Science, episode number 487, recorded on Wednesday, October 29th, 2014. It's not caribou poo. Hey everyone, I am Dr. Kiki, and today we're going to fill your head on This Week in Science with a little bird song, a few orders, and sexy ferns. But first...
Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. The following hour of programming is not for the faint of heart. As ghoulish corpses begin grumbling in their graves and long-sleeping vampires slowly slide the coffin lids ajar, as witches stir all manner of creepy, crawly creatures into their cauldrons, and neighborhood children across the nation prepare to embark in an ancient pagan celebration, we will keep you safe and sound with fairies, beetle sex, and Ebola protocols, comfortably distracted with brain parasites and ancient poo viruses. And as always, just a little bit creeped out by what is actually going on in the natural world of This Week in Science. Coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening, what's happening, what's happening this week in science. What's happening, what's happening, what's happening this week in science.
Good science to you, Kirsten.
Good science to you, Justin, and welcome everyone out there to another episode of This Week in Science. We are missing a Blair this week, but that's okay. Never fear. Well, maybe you can fear because it's almost Halloween. Never fear. We've got lots of science here. We do. I have stories about fairy wrens singing to their eggs. Better beetle babies. I think that could have been a Dr. Seuss story. And old poo that you should beware of. Yeah, what'd you bring?
I've got cat poo fever, sick spit, disgusting politics, and I've got a whole bunch of other stuff too to fill in for when we don't have Blair here to do stuff.
We have all sorts of stories, and I think, in fact, my first three stories were inspired by Blair's Animal Corner, even though she's not here tonight. The animals are in full force, and I've even got invertebrate sex.
What?
Is she going to be upset? I'm taking her area here tonight. All right. First up, birds. I do love the birds. Fairy wrens. They're some pretty little birds. They've got these bright blue and black heads, and they're wrens, so they're really cute, and they sing pretty songs. Anywho, some researchers in Germany have published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B Biological Sciences a study that they think gives support for an idea of how baby birds, these fairy wrens, how the baby birds can compete with the offspring of brood parasites that dump their eggs in the nests of the fairy wrens after the birds all hatch. And what they did is they found that based on the idea of human embryos responding via heartbeat changes in the womb to the sound of their mother's voice or to familiar voices, they did a similar study. They took a bunch of fairy wren eggs from the nest. They put little sound monitors, heartbeat monitors, on the little fairy wren eggs to be able to see if they could detect any kind of heart rate changes in response to different bird songs. And so they played white noise. They also played pre-recorded contact calls from a different wren species, and then calls from females of the same species who were giving incubation calls to their eggs. And they found that it was only during calls from fairy wren, the same species of females, the embryo's heart rate slowed down. And they played another couple of things. They recorded sounds from a different adult female of the same species, and the one that they had trained. They also kind of played this kind of mommy vocalization to the eggs for a long period of time, and then compared the result of that kind of learned sound that they were playing to the baby eggs to a different mother, a different female bird, and they found that the heart rates lowered to the mommy, the training bird. So what they think is that the embryos could actually tell the difference between different female adult calls. And this is the first time it's been determined in any species other than human embryos that this is possible. And so what they think, their publication, their hypothesis is that females, when on the nest, they sing little passwords to their babies, give little calls that are like, I don't know, whatever a password for a bird would be. I was going to make something up.
Swordfish.
Yeah, exactly. And then when the birds hatch, they can sing that call back or give something that approximates that call back to the mother so that the mother will know that they should feed that baby, as opposed to a big baby begging cuckoo bird that's going ah, 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 and creating this huge supernormal stimulus to try and get food. And so this is kind of that evolution in action as to how these, the host species are adapting to and combating against the parasite bird species that dump eggs in their nests.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. I thought that was very fun. Another study this one's related to sex in ferns. Ferns. Ferns, little
Ferns have sex?
Green plants. I mean, if we're talking invertebrates, this is like the ultimate invertebrate. It's not even a vertebrate. It's a plant.
But a fern is a plant.
It's a plant. It's just a plant. So there's a paper out in the journal Science this week from a team of Japanese researchers that is looking into how the sex ratio of males to females in populations of ferns gets determined. And what they've found is that there's a chemical signal that is given off when a plant goes from an immature plant into and becomes a female plant. They give off a hormone that's called gibberellin, but it's inactivated. And the inactivated gibberellin, it gets received by immature sex organs of other ferns. It gets converted into the immature sex organ gets converted into a mature form, and then the gibberellin influences it to be developed as a male. So females show up in the population. If they show up first, then they're going to create more males around them. Yeah. So the plants actually control their own sex ratio, and it's probably the balance. Yeah, it's probably the balance is like a probability of like who develops first, whether it's a male or the female.
Or maybe even somewhat removes their being. I mean, in nature or surrounded by other ferns, anything but the favored or most productive ratio.
Right.
That's clever.
It's very clever. And the plants, these ferns, have only evolved 2 additional genes in the gibberellin signaling pathway. Gibberellin is used by all plants to control all sorts of activity, but the ferns specifically have 2 additional genes that lead to this sex determination system. The one question that comes out of it, though, is if the females are producing this signal, like how is it affecting other plants in the neighborhood? Is it a very fern specific signal, or are they only affecting ferns? Or is there some other effect that the gibberellin is having because it is a biological signaling molecule? So that's what I would like to know. Yeah, and then the final this is where I get into the invertebrate sex. This is where I get into it. Another story from the Proceedings of the Royal Society B, Biological Sciences. This is where are the research? I don't know where the researchers are from. Looks like Denmark, but the study is looking at red flower beetles. Red flower beetles, just little beetles. And the males transfer their sperm and seminal fluids in what's called a spermatophore, which is like a little sac that gets transferred from the male to the female via a tube. These beetles get exposed to pathogens all the time, and there's been a lot of research done in how mothers can affect offspring's ability to have an immune system response to different pathogens. And so we know that, there are actual effects during the development or that are passed along by the females to the offspring. But what's happening to the possibility of males being able to offer anything in the way of immunity or immune defense? And what they found is that by doing this, they called it a double mating experiment, and they took 2 males because the females could take the material from either male and be mated to multiple males to be able to have her offspring. So they would mate a female with 2 males of different species, or not completely different species, but there were different subspecies, and they were the reindeer population. Oh, here it is. So the red flower beetles, there's the reindeer population. The males show a dominant mutation in antenna morphology that results in antenna that are in the shape of reindeer antlers. And then there is there's another group, the Croatia population, and they do not have that mutation. So they could tell the 2 males apart. And they would take one male and culture it in a bacterial population, and the other male would not be. And then they did and mate a female with both males. And then they swapped it, and they'd primed the other male subpopulation to bacteria and not the other, and mate to a female. And they did a whole bunch of crosses like this so that they could figure out whether it was the sperm part of the spermatophore. So is it actually the genetic material getting to the female, to the offspring, having some kind of an immune response, or was it the seminal fluids and other stuff that gets passed along with the sperm? And what they determined is that there was actually a specific response to sperm only. They found that only the genetic offspring of an immune-primed male show enhanced survival upon bacterial challenge. And then they had phenyloxidase activity, which is an important insect immune trait, and the expression of the immune receptor being increased in all the offspring. So information leading to enhanced survival specific to the pathogen that they were primed to is transferred via sperm. And so they think it's potentially an epigenetic effect because that would have been something that happened during the male's lifetime. And then substances through the seminal fluid also have just a more general additional immune influence, but it's not necessarily epigenetic. It's just like it transfers some kind of immunological alertness, as they phrase it in their abstract.
Yes, yes.
Yep. Epigenetics in beetles, that there is something happening within the immune system of males that they are able to transfer information about exposure to different pathogens to their babies.
That's brilliant, and that does explain, or it explains quite a bit, because it seems as though there are some disease. That's how you gain, I guess, a defense against disease over time. We don't all start over from scratch. Our immune
Correct.
systems aren't completely at point zero and then have to gain all of the immunities as we age and as we are exposed to things. Some things we're already equipped to defend against.
Yeah, and I think that it's really interesting because there's definitely going to be stuff that's genetic, that is absolutely within the genome, that there are certain pathogens that we have been evolving with for a very long time that we will probably have specific responses to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then there are others that it's, I don't, maybe it's a within the lifetime kind of an effect, which obviously in this study that's what it was, which
Yeah. Well, and then
we're still figuring out how that
think
works.
these things we've evolved over lifetimes against. How did we evolve an immunity against them? You know, it may have been something that worked and that stayed with us. Whether it's epigenetic to get there, but then once it's in the genome, then it's in the genome. But it may not have taken the millions of years for some of these. It may have happened just like that.
Yeah. I didn't see this question earlier in the chat room. Ebola refugee is asking from the cuckoo story, or the fairy wren and cuckoo story, how do cuckoo chicks survive if they're not getting fed? Well, the thing is that they actually are really, really amazing competitors within the nest. They're usually bigger than the other babies. They're more aggressive, and they beg louder, and they have these mouths that mama and papa birds just can't refuse because they're what we call super normal stimuli. And so what we're seeing here, so usually they will get more food than the real babies of a fairy wren, and the fairy wren babies will die. Well, they'll starve to death, or they'll get kicked out of the nest by the cuckoo. So this is a really great adaptation that the fairy wrens may have that will allow the parents to recognize their own children and be more likely to actually feed their own children to get their own children to survive. Just to answer that question. And gibberellin, yes, it does regulate growth, and it's involved in plant growth. But in the case of the fern sex story, gibberellin is related to sexual development, which is pretty cool. And my chat room, yeah, Giants win! Oh, Ed from Connecticut, thank you for the update. Woohoo! Hometown team! The city is going to go crazy. I'm hearing it right now. The city is seriously going insane right now. I just have to say that. Oh my God, I can hear people screaming. The whole city is exploding. Can you hear it? It's like the background. I wonder if I can open the door.
To our fans who are listening, who are in Kansas City right now. Oh, wait, what am I saying?
This is just a brief sideline.
Kansas City.
A brief sideline to the show that I'm going to edit out. But hold on. You guys. Can you hear it?
All I hear is gunfire.
Right?
It just sounds like San Francisco. Gunfire, people screaming. That's typically what I expect from San Francisco when the sun goes down.
Typical San Francisco. Gunfire and people screaming. That is insane, Justin. That's not what it's like here.
Yeah, I can even hear people are even shooting here in Davis, which is odd.
Woo! Go Giants! Woohoo! Okay.
Yeah,
Fine.
there's honking and hootering going on.
Honking and all sorts of screaming
Yeah.
outside after the shutout last night. This is super exciting. Tied 3-3. Shutout in the 6th game of the World Series. The Giants eke out a win in the 7th game thanks to Bumgardner. That's right. Anyway, yeah, I should make sure my house is fireproof. Yeah, sports ball. Let's hope that we don't have to worry about riots in San Francisco. That's what happened last time.
Did you
People.
really? San Francisco had riots?
Yeah, last time the Giants won, we had riots. People were knocking cars over in the streets, all sorts of stuff. So, wow, I hope those are just fireworks and not guns. They're getting closer.
Yes.
Alrighty.
Sports hoodlumism. What could be more frightening as we near Halloween?
That's right. Okay, everybody. Super exciting. All right, everyone. Back to the show. I'm going to mute myself until I have something to say because of all the firework excitement
the
over
shooting.
here. The shooting.
Yeah.
That's right. All right, everyone. This is This Week in Science. Justin, what kind of stories do you have up?
So there have been a lot of things discussed in terms of schizophrenia. It's a spectrum disorder, which means there could be a wide spectrum of causes for what appear as similar symptoms. Genetics, of course, being discussed, some possibility for there to be environmental triggers. I think we've finally dispelled ghosts, possession. Well, most places on the earth we've dispelled the idea that possession by demon or devil is the cause. But still, there is one reason for schizophrenia that isn't as widely talked about or understood. It's infection by Toxoplasma gondii. This is the parasite transmitted by soil, undercooked meat, or basically it's cats. It's the only place that the parasite reproduces itself is in cats. They're the vector. They're what brings this parasite into the human frame of contact. And I think one of the reasons possibly that this thing keeps getting overlooked or underreported or underestimated in its impact is because too many people in our society like cats. There's a new study here by Gary Smith, professor of population biology and epidemiology at the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. He used I can't even talk anymore. Epidemiological modeling methods to determine the proportion of schizophrenia cases to be attributable to T. gondii, trying to figure out of the schizophrenia that people have, how much of it is actually the fault of this parasite. His work, published in the journal Preventive Veterinary Medicine, suggests that about 1/5, that is 20% of all cases of schizophrenia, may involve or be directly caused by T. gondii, aka the cat parasite. Infection with the cat parasite is very common. So even if only on a small percentage of the people who suffer adverse consequences, we would be talking about problems that affect many thousands of people, Smith said. It is estimated, by the way, that just over about around 5 to 25%, 20 to 25% of the population of the United States is infected with T. gondii. And of course, it's nothing to say that vast majority of people who are infected aren't aware of it. Most people aren't even aware this parasite exists. If you ask anybody who does not listen to this show, chances are they've never heard of it. There are populations that should be made aware of it. Women who become infected for the first time during pregnancy, the fetus can die or suffer very serious developmental problems. including blindness. Blindness is like one of the more common effects. People with immunity diseases that a weak immune system are susceptible to other complications because of the infection. Encephalitis can be the result there, which is deadly. So he does this study, and he's looking over, and this is you have to understand too. This is United States based, and it's actually a little higher than it. It's saying, taking account age-related changes, relevant factors. Smith found that the average, this is the average population affected frequency is, or fraction is 21.4% of those suffering schizophrenia are actually suffering T. gondii infection. And he says, in other words, if you could stop infections with this parasite, how many people could you save? Over a lifetime, we found that you could prevent 1/5 of all cases of schizophrenia. 1/5, 1 out of 5 schizophrenia cases eliminated. Smith also notes that in some countries, the prevalence of T. gondii infection is much higher than the United States. And these countries, now, what's interesting is you would expect them, if they have higher rates of infection, to have more cases, a higher frequency of schizophrenia, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do. Yes, they do. They have higher rates of schizophrenia as well. Yes, it's correlated. It's there. So, schizophrenia is says it's responsible to $50 to $60 billion a year in healthcare expenditures in just the United States. $56 to $60 billion a year. So if we could solve 1/5 of those cases, right? We'd be saving $10 to $12.5 billion a year, which, as we learned from last week's show, is enough to put 4 or 5 rovers on Mars.
Yes, it's plenty of money to put some rovers on Mars. Probably enough money to have a really nice mission to Mars.
Right? One with like leather couches and high-speed internet. This is just, but it's fascinating to me still, because as long as we've talked about this, and as much as we've talked about this, it still does not seem to have broken through the ether to the mainstream public consciousness of the deadliness and the threat of a parasite that is transported by the domestic cat.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that's we're seeing more and more evidence that it affects more and more people. However, there is, it's, if you have indoor cats, you're not likely to have an issue with T. gondii. It's the outdoor cats who go outside, are using the dirt as a litter box, and then tracking it back inside.
Right. If your cat never escapes from the house, I mean, if it never goes out even for one night, then you're probably okay.
And you're probably okay anyway, because not even all cats are going to be affected by it. It's not like 100% of cats are carrying T. gondii. I mean, if they were, then we would be seeing a significantly larger problem. So what we're seeing is we have a small percentage of cats that are, transmitting this. It affects different populations differently. Some populations, like I believe it's Brazil, that has something like 60% of its population that is supposed to be possibly infected with T. gondii. While Brazil is coming up in the world, it's still not considered a first world country. It does not have even standard medical care in its full around the entire country. So you have a lot of people who have substandard cleaning, substandard water supplies, substandard health care, and so that's where you see this becoming an issue. You see people in the United States, we do not have as high of an infection rate or a PAF, population attributable fraction. Yeah,
I will agree with you.
So he's looking at, that over the average lifetime. It's not saying that and I'm really confused not having seen this study what this percentage actually is, this 21.4%, because the PAF is the population attributable fraction. So the population fraction of schizophrenia patients that during an average lifetime could be attributable to T. gondii. So this is only within schizophrenia patients during an average lifetime. Yeah.
But this is the point. Yeah, if a fifth of our schizophrenia patients are having schizophrenia because of T. gondii, then the awareness to a cure for that population is saving thousands and thousands of people. And on top of that, we already know separate. That's not the percentage that shows that a quarter of Americans are infected. That's separate. That's out there already. But that's a much larger number. It doesn't mean we know that there's behavioral changes, and we've also seen driving reaction time changes based on also depending on which blood chemistry the person happens to have who has T. gondii. But there's a lot of effects throughout society that are beyond schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is really just a very loud, flashing alert that this thing is affecting people's brains. And I will agree with you.
And we don't even have schizophrenia is a catch-all phrase. Also, it's actually something that is a spectrum disorder.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have some aspects, some people who have something that has these symptoms that we call schizophrenia, where they come from a brain infection. Some people it comes from genetic aspects. Some people it comes from something else. Yeah.
But for a fifth of them, it comes from this infection, this parasitic infection.
Right.
And I agree with you that not all cats are vectors for T. gondii, but all vectors for T. gondii are cats, and that's why we need a iron-fisted policy
to come up with a treatment for T. gondii infection.
Yeah, and in the meantime, quarantine all cats.
We don't need to quarantine all cats. It's ridiculous. This is just an impetus for people to do something. Do something. Fix it.
But I wonder. I mean, but it's a great point though.
Justin.
Schizophrenia is the most obvious symptom now. I mean, this is something that because they were found by accident that somebody with T. gondii, who was also schizophrenic, when treated for their T. gondii, the schizophrenic symptoms cleared up. So we've been learning about this for a long time. I'm wondering how many other less evident behavioral changes are affecting the nation based on this infection. It's curious. You know, we've taken so much time in this first half. Do you want to go to the break and finish up in the second half with more stories? I've got more to come.
That sounds like a great idea. So, more to come from Justin's 6-bit and lots of other stuff. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with more This Week in Science. Hey everyone, are you enjoying watching TWIS on Wednesdays? Let us know, because it's working for us pretty well. I hope it's working for you. TWIS, This Week in Science, the show you are paying attention to right now, has some merchandise that you might enjoy. The holidays are coming up, so maybe buy some TWIS swag for someone you love. That's right, the TWIS minion you know and love. Maybe they need a hat or a t-shirt or something like a tote bag for the holidays. Something to carry those gifts around in? I don't know. Head over to twis.org where you can find our Zazzle store. So Zazzle is our store, where you can find all of our swag, TWIS.org. Head there, look into our main header bar, and the Zazzle store is there. Click on it, click, 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 and it'll take you to zazzle.com/thisweekinscience. But anyway, TWIS.org, it's the easiest way to get there. Look for our Zazzle store to buy stuff. TWIS is supported by listeners like you. That's pretty much it right now. Your donations pay for hosting, bandwidth, contractors we need to hire, fun things that we try to do for the show. We appreciate any amount that you are able to give. $2, $200, $20, whatever it is. We really appreciate it because you make this show possible for us to do it on a weekly basis and hire babysitters if we need to and stuff like that. We currently accept donations a couple of ways. First, we have PayPal buttons all over twis.org. So if you head over there and you listen to the most recent episode and go through the show notes, there's PayPal donation buttons all over the place, and we make it really easy for you to donate that way. If that's not your thing, but you kind of like the Kickstarter world of stuff, Patreon. We have a Patreon account. It's patreon.com/thisweekinscience, and you can support us for every episode that we do at a set amount. You can even set limits to how much you want to support us every month. But in return for whatever level of support you give us, we will send you a gift. That's what we're doing. We send gifts. And a bunch of people sent me pictures on Twitter earlier today of gifts that they had received. Aaron Lore, and who else received a gift? There were a few people. It's pretty awesome. Other things that came in the mail. Whatever you prefer, go to our website, try to donate. And I guess if you can't afford a donation, we can always use your help. So can you help us out in different ways? Let us know how you might be able to help us out. Also, you have friends, family? Tell them about TWIS. Tell them to listen. Maybe tweet it out. Facebook it. Send the links around. Tell people how awesome it is, and then you can have cocktail party conversation around TWIS. And I was also going to say, if you are liking TWIS, there's a hangout, a TWIS Minion hangout that happens every week. It's headed up by Ed Dyer and some other folks. If you want to check that out, it's the Science Island TWIS Minion hangout, and it happens through Google Plus Hangouts on Air, and I believe tomorrow night, Thursday. Thursday nights are the nights for those hangouts unless otherwise listed. So check that out if you are interested. We thank you for your support. We really could not do this without you.
Explain the things you heard with more than intuition. The line of reason shows the way to go.
And we're back with more This Week in Science.
Oh yeah. Okay.
You know what I just noticed? You know what I just thought of just because it's Halloween?
What?
Witches.
Witches.
Often thought to be, if there's some sort of historical reference for somebody being called a witch, they're probably somebody who acts a little bit erratic, somebody who seems to be hearing voices and speaking to things that aren't there, or having delusions of some sort, or seem very strange in society. And what is the animal associated with witches? What is the animal that witches usually hang out with, that they have hanging around the cauldron looking to see what goes in?
Frogs.
No, it's cat.
Cats. Cats, I know. The black cat, the witch's familiar.
Hey, you know where there's a real bounty of information that we may need in the next couple of decades to start really looking into. I mean, we've looked into deep space. We've delved into the quantum. You know where the next place of big research might come from?
Where?
Spit.
What?
Yes, spit. Big spit research is underway. This is actually pretty fascinating. This is a study down at UCLA that says a simple saliva test could be capable of diagnosing at an early stage diabetes, cancer, perhaps neurological, autoimmune diseases, and we've known that there's hints in spit and saliva that we've been sussing out when somebody's already sick. But this is what's really interesting. So there's these little bits of RNA, these microbits of RNA that are associated with diseases that somehow show up in spit. It's like the spit collects them, it sponges them up, it hangs onto them as they're processing, as they're going through the body. They get stuck in the spit. And they did this study, and I'm trying to find the exact biomarkers or the bits that they found in here. Let's see. The new research is a collaboration by Jinshu Zhao and a paper, another senior author at the UCLA Associate Professor for Integrative Biology and Physiology, using state-of-the-art science genomics and bioinformatics. The researchers analyzed 165 million genetic sequences, among them many forms of RNA, so that live in the mouth and in the cells. For example, it wasn't known until very recently that RNA comes in circular form. The linear form has been known about, but the scientists identified more than 400 circular RNAs in human saliva. The first discovery of circular RNA in saliva or in any body fluid, including 327 forms that were previously unknown.
Wow.
So it's not just we've known that these indicators are in here, but there's this other form of RNA that is a new discovery, relatively new discovery. And so this new research went looking for it within the saliva to see if it was there, see if they could find it, and they found it in droves.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So its function, why it's actually there, isn't actually understood. It does seem, though, that they're saying they're describing the saliva as a sponge for these tiny molecules, and that they're getting bound up in it. Circular RNAs in saliva may be protecting other RNAs, says Zhao, who is also a faculty member at UCLA College. It is likely, she says, that the circular RNAs in saliva protect microRNAs from being degraded. So it could be playing a functional role there as well. And
microRNAs, because they influence gene activity, it would be really great that they were protected so that they can continue to do their job without being degraded too much in the saliva, which actually is slightly acidic.
Yeah. So while most RNA molecules translate genetic code from DNA to make proteins, there's also a class called non-coding RNAs that does not. Saliva carries with it non-coding RNAs, microRNAs, piRNAs. I don't even know what the...
Oh, I found that. That's Pee-wee interacting RNAs. piRNAs. Pee-wee interacting. I think I really like that. It's my new favorite.
Pee-wee interacting.
They're produced by stem cells, skin cells, and germ cells, so cells that divide.
And also the circ, which I'm assuming is the circular RNAs, that are biomarkers for disease and health monitoring. So this can be, now this is a fantastic treasure trove of information about what's going on throughout the body that may, in the future, opening the door to, leading into one of those things we've been looking for still. We've been talking about it pretty much the entire time this show has existed, the sort of tabletop home diagnostic machine. Forget WebMDDoctor.com thingy where you go and you put in a bunch of symptoms and think all of a sudden you for sure have Ebola and not the flu. This would actually be a spit test. That you could
spit in a tube, and there's a sensor that connects to your phone, reads the information, and sends it immediately to your dentist or your doctor.
Yes. And then, if you do have Ebola, you need do nothing, for the authorities have already been alerted.
Right, everybody's converging on your house already. But this is something that's interesting to me because for so long we've just thought of dentists as the healthcare professionals just for our teeth. You know, you go in, they help out, get rid of cavities. Maybe they get rid of the infected tooth, you know, but what does that have to do with the rest of our bodies? It's just the teeth, whatever. But it turns out that, you know, we're learning more and more. First, the microbiome, the bacteria in our mouth, finding out that if we have leaky gums, we can get infectious bacteria into our bloodstream through our gums. So if you're not taking care of your teeth, first of all, this is a first line of defense for disease. And second, now our spit, we're going into the dentist and they're sucking our spit up right and left. They could actually be taking this data when we go in for 6-month checkups or whatever. So the dentist is suddenly poised to become a much, much more important member of the healthcare spectrum for a person's life, you know?
Possibly.
Yeah.
All right, and then back onto the Halloween theme of the evening.
Ooh.
Maggot infestations.
Ew, my stomach just turned.
Unidentifiable gunk in the kitchen sink. This is a fantastic study out of Virginia Tech. How much your brain responds to disgusting images is a great predictor of whether or not you're a liberal or a conservative. Because, according to this study, the reaction to disgusting or revolting things is very different between a liberal and a conservative. This is a study that's coming, it's going to be in the upcoming issue of Current Biology. International team of scientists led by Virginia Tech reports that strength of a person's reaction to repulsive images can forecast their political ideology. And they did this with the help of, I believe, an MRI machine is what they used. In a brain scanner, participants were shown disgusting images such as dirty toilets, mutilated carcasses mixed with neutral and pleasant images such as landscapes and happy babies. Afterwards, the subjects took political ideology inventory, answering questions about how often they discussed politics, whether they agreed or disagreed with hot-button topics such as school, prayer, and gay marriage, using functional magnetic resonance imaging. Scientists from Virginia Tech. Hang on. Oh, this is choking me up. Research Institute, in collaboration with researchers from University College London, Rice University, University of Nebraska, Lincoln, and Yale University, so lots of universities getting their hand in on this, recorded brain activity of the subjects responding to the images. And they found that they could predict with 95 to 98% accuracy how a person would answer questions on the political survey once the initial viewing of their brain scans in reaction to the images was completed. So they could predict with that degree of accuracy somebody's politics without knowing them previously based on just watching their brains in the scanner. That is wild. Now this opens up that we're going to have a brand new wave of political campaigns, commercials coming out, right? Not this year, but next year, or the next cycle. We'll see. We'll see images of dirty toilets.
No, yeah, right. What I'm thinking here, though, I mean, this is something that he's arguing. The researcher Montague is arguing that this is heritable. You are getting the way that you react to these things, because this is like emotional lizard brain stuff. The way that your brain is reacting to these things is genetic. It's just the way your brain, it's kind of predetermined. And so you are going to follow kind of in footsteps of your parents or others. But every once in a while, it's like parents who are Republicans go, I don't know how I raised a conservative, not a conservative child, but I love my child. I'm just imagining that instead of trying to get people to react to certain things and just having these crazy images to get people to react to, which we kind of already do, that now we're just going to see the two parties in the United States just trying to get their people, their populations, to breed more. Long-term plan, get more conservatives or more Democrats to be voting. How do you do that? You have more babies. If this is all predetermined and you can't fight against it, have more babies.
Yes. So here's what they found too. Conservatives tend to have more magnified responses to the disgusting images. They didn't understand exactly why that was. One of the things, now there is a talk about the reactions being somewhat involuntary in a sense, right? And it is being attributed, like you say, perhaps these are heritable traits, your reaction level. But I kind of wonder if the how you're going to react is sort of automatically reacting in a certain way isn't affected by upbringing as well, by outlook as well, by other things as well, by the way that you.
It totally is, and I'm kind of playing. I was playing devil's advocate there a little bit. I mean, it's genes and environment, and it's going to be a mixture of all of them. And this is something that I've argued before, and I'm going to continue to argue over and over again. Even though we have very basic emotional reactions to things that can, as in the case of this study, predict whether or not you're going to respond more conservatively or more like a liberal on a survey, on a test of your ideals. Even though there might be correlation there, you don't have to actually fall in line with that, because what you do is you stop. You let yourself react and go, gross, maggots, whatever. And then you go, oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, maggots are really good for cleaning wounds. That's not really maggot-infected flesh. That's actually, like, potentially, that could actually be good. And so you can think about things and rationalize. And you are not a victim of your neurobiology. And that is something that I think everybody needs to start remembering.
Possibly. But here's the other part of it, though. Here's what's really interesting, too. I wonder how much cultural influence, just word choice, upbringing, that sort of thing. It'd be interesting to see this same study done in other countries as well, where we're not as left-right split. There's one interesting thing that sort of trends throughout culture. Your Iberian, Italian, Greek, South European, there's a much larger tradition of sentimentality. There's a lot of, sort of looking towards the past, thinking about the past, basing things on the past, and a connection there to in daily life, and the verbiage and words used, a lot of sentimentality that's missing from Northern Europe. Northern Europe tends to be more forward-thinking, more forward-looking, and is, more planning oriented.
Right, and then you could talk about someplace like Japan, where everything is more for the greater good, where you are like a cog in the machine, and that is accepted, versus here in the Western world, where you are an individual, and especially in the United States, being an individual is much more important. And so there are these social ideals that could definitely come into play in how this plays out for different cultures.
Yes, and I think if you've been in the United States is a great example of this. Regardless of where your peoples were, your politics, your way of being in the world shifts pretty dramatically after a generation or two here, compared to the nation that bore you or bore your ancestors, right? So what this means is it is very likely that we can go through a psychological change based on how we grew up that has nothing to do with our genes, and that politics being genetic, how do you separate that from your upbringing completely? I wouldn't understand. You have to find the separated twins. And
well, that's what they were basing it on, is that there was twin research. There has been twin research that suggests these kinds of attitudes are heritable. This study was not a twin study, but there have been twin studies that have that have shown that political ideology might be something that you inherit. And so that's why there's still no specific link, but it's interesting.
Well, if that's the case, then from here on out, we should have only right-wing conservatives and left-wing wingnuts having children.
Right, the extremes. Let's get them together, right? Yeah.
And somewhere in it, they will either be extremely moderate and level-headed, or they would just be completely uninterested in politics at that point. I'm not sure what would be the result.
My parents are crazy. I don't want anything to do with politics ever again. Yeah. And as you said, that this could be some kind of, that sometimes there is a change during your life that leads you to a certain decision. And as Wiz Mike says in the chat room, I never thought I would like Brussels sprouts. It happens. Sometimes things you never thought would happen actually happen. I had a story related to disgustingness. Old, fossilized. Well, not fossilized. In the cold reaches of the icy tundra, caribou once played, bounding joyfully or running fearfully from the wolves. And sometimes they pooped. And that poop ended up frozen in the ice for 700 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, until some scientists here in San Francisco thought it out and said, hey, what's in this poo? And along with a lot of other things, they found 2 ancient viruses.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Yeah,
they found 2 ancient viruses.
A viral time capsule. And there was a lot of caribou. There's literally thousands and upon thousands of these potential time bombs throughout the entire Arctic of viruses.
Time bombs. Viral time bombs, yeah. So they thawed them out, and then they used them, these RNA viruses, to infect a plant. They took a modern plant, and Nicotiana benthamiana, so it's a tobacco plant. They infected it with these viruses. They cloned them, they infected them, and the virus replicated and actually showed up in the leaves of the plants. So the plants actually were infected. However, it didn't actually cause any symptoms of disease. Like there was some weirdness. You could see that there was evidence of infection in the leaves of the plant they infected, but it didn't actually lead to any symptoms. And so they don't know at this point whether or not it was because of the plants not being the right host, because these plants weren't in that area. So maybe they found a more suitable host, the virus would have a much more reliable response. But they're going to figure out whether or not that's the case, or whether or not this is just there is an immune response that keeps it from being symptomatic, whether or not these viruses, being old, plants have developed responses that make them kind of out-of-date viruses. So they might be around, but they're out of date. But the question is, as the Arctic melts, how many bits of caribou poo or whatever else that's frozen in the ice containing viral particles, what's going to be released? We don't know. Now, if that isn't a Halloween tale, I don't know what is.
That's pretty scary.
We have no idea. Let's see, some other fun stuff. Ribozymes. You had the RNA story in spit. Well, researchers put a bunch of ribonucleic acids in a test tube, and they tried to create an environment that would select for only certain handed molecules. So as the nucleic acids start connecting up, they connect in a way that has a certain chirality. So we call it either right-handed or left-handed. So your hands are mirror images of each other. They're not exact copies of each other, because if they were, then your thumb would be on the outside. It would look pretty funny. So they're mirror images of each other, these molecules, these chiral molecules. The majority of molecules that make up life are right-handed, left-handed, right-handed, I believe. So they stuck a bunch of things in a test tube and specifically tried to select for molecules that would be left-handed and would be enzymes to catalyze the joining of left-handed ribonucleic acids. So they created a ribozyme, which is a ribonucleic enzyme that is self-replicating. And this is something that has been hypothesized to be necessary to kickstart the RNA world into that mode of replication that would eventually lead to life. So nobody's ever before created a self-replicating ribozyme in the lab, one that attaches to, so left-handed molecule attaches to a right-handed molecule to get it to copy itself to create another right-handed molecule. So a replicator enzyme. Nobody's done that before, and they just did. They did it for left-handed ones. So now they've created, and they've also created a right-handed one, but they don't have it in very large numbers, so they're starting to try to select for this right-handed ribozyme to see if maybe if we can create it in the lab, maybe we can see if we can find some evidence of something like it in nature. Yeah.
Ready for a vampire story?
Yes, please.
Okay, this is, let me see if I can find the name. This is UC Davis professor Walter Leal, vampire hunter, Department of Vampire Hunting and Cellular Biology. He's been studying DEET, the very, it's probably the #1 thing, spray chemical deal used to repel mosquitoes.
Right. It's not supposed to be very good for you, but it's great for getting rid of mosquitoes.
But yeah, it keeps the mosquitoes away, right?
Keeps fleas away, keeps all the chiggers and other things away. They don't like it.
Yeah, so it looks like he's maybe identified the antenna receptor on the mosquito that is why DEET works, and thereby narrowing down what all is in DEET that is actually necessary. It's actually necessary to do the repelling. Based on this, he thinks it might be possible to find a less expensive plant-derived repellent. So one of the and what it seems to be a group of receptors, the ionotropic receptors, that normally detects acids, bases, and other water-soluble compounds. The researchers discovered, however, when a receptor from the odorant receptor group is directly activated by DEET. So basically what he's saying, though, is it looks as though DEET, one of the compounds within DEET, methyl jasmonate, is mimicking a defensive chemical that's already found in plants. And that's the thing that's triggering, that's the one that has a receptor in the mosquito's antennae and is keeping it at bay. Yeah. So they may have found a safer, healthier, effective, cheaper way of keeping vampires away.
Love it.
Right?
Love it.
I've got two stories here also from the Acoustical Society of America. Acoustical Society of America. We don't hear much from them on This Week in Science.
Not too much, no.
No, this is two studies.
Regulars.
One here is they've discovered that ant nests can mimic, butterflies can sound like ants. Ant nests can do a lot, can offer a lot to organisms other than just ants. Ants, they are well protected, environmentally stable, resource-rich spaces. In many ways, everything a tiny creature could ask for in the home. Ah, the ant nest. Where else would you want to live? Of course, you have to be able to get along with your neighbors. Thousands of species of insects that squat inside ant nests. Survival means finding ways to live with the ants, foiling the chemical cues used by ants to distinguish friend from foe. Now a team of scientists at the University of Turin in Italy have been looking at how the would-be nest crashers also use sound as a productive countermeasure, warping ant words to suit their own needs. Interesting. So acoustic signals convey quite complex information, not only between worker ants while outside the colony, for example, during foraging, but also within the nests and between casts. I didn't really realize, I thought the ants were all chemical. I didn't realize they were using all these acoustical signals. They aimed to understand whether some ant social parasites, such as butterfly larvae, could interfere with the host ant communication systems. Over the years, the team recorded and analyzed the sound and signals emitted by larvae and pupa of Maculinea parasites and by queens and workers in the Mimrica host ants. Observing similarities in patterns between butterfly parasites and ant hosts' acoustical signals, they have investigated the role of these signals in the ant societies and host-parasite relationship by playing back recorded sounds to the ant nests. Basically, what they've discovered is that the butterfly larvae are mimicking the queen ant in saying, "Feed me."
I love it. That's interesting. I wonder how that ended up happening.
Yeah. I know, he says it's consistent. Once inside the host nest, the main difference between the two life strategies that cuckoos need to be considered as colony members, predatory species need not to be discovered by the ants, right? So
yeah, they're trying to do something so that they don't get discovered, so they're going to mimic whatever they can. So in this case, it's the sounds that the queen ant makes.
Can also show that the butterfly caterpillars can beg like baby ants by secreting chemicals similar to those an ant larva would, fooling workers into feeding the caterpillars as their own. Wow. Some of these, but some were given the royal treatment. Fed first, fed most, even in times of scarcity, as the real ant larva went hungry.
Yeah, that's the most amazing thing. It goes back to the cuckoo story I was talking about at the beginning of the story. It's like the parents, the ant colony, or the birds, like there is something about the signal that's being given off by that parasite that is so much stronger than their own link to their own offspring. It is so much stronger that they have to respond to it, and they do, at the to the detriment of their own offspring.
And that's how they did it, though, too, is that they, one stage of them is begging like a baby ant. The next one is pretending to be the queen, mimicking the queen, so that when there is a scarcity, when there's stuff, when it's serious, when I gotta play my feed me right now card, they mimicked the queen.
Feed me, I'm the queen. Feed me, I'm the queen.
Wow.
It is totally wild. I love that.
Can you imagine if language was that barbaric, though?
Yeah.
That it would be like what would it? No, Kiki, it's Christmas. You should send me a present right now. Kiki, it's Christmas. Send me a present. And you'd be like, oh, it's Christmas. I got to send Justin a present.
Of course I do. Even though it's like October.
No, Kiki, I'm Justin. I'm your other son. You need to get me it's Christmas, and you need to get me a present. If words just worked like that, that seems to be what it's like at this level. You've learned the words, and they work every time because nobody knows the power of the word is so powerful it overrides every other sense. Another thing from the Acoustical Society of America, right-wing Italian politician Umberto Bossi. He had a stroke in 2004. His speech became impaired. The impact on his perception among the party followers, he went from seeming very authoritarian to seeming very benevolent. Word choices didn't really change, right? Same type of speeches, same guy, but he's no longer seen as an authoritarian figure, but more of a benevolent ruler.
What changed?
His tonal qualities changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, University of California, Los Angeles thinks they know why. Probing vocal presence of charisma across cultural divides, scientists found speakers with a wide range of frequency variation to their voices were more likely to be perceived as dominant. They also found that speakers with low fundamental rate of vocal fold vibration, called fundamental frequency or FO, are perceived as more dominant than speakers with the high fundamental frequency.
Right, which is why there's psychologically we've had people talking about men seeming more dominant because they have lower voices. Also, females who have lower voices having a more dominant presence. This is, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of a...
It always makes me want to talk in a lower tone of voice.
Well, it makes me want to talk like this.
If I could speak in a lower tone of voice, maybe people would think I'm more dominant.
Much more dominant when you speak like this.
But I would have to be more dynamic. I don't know if that's possible. Can I do it? Wait, am I Shatnering? No.
No, it's not Shatner. That's what's his name? The ant. What's his name? What's the guy?
Oh, I know.
Where do I gotta get that ant?
Christopher Walken.
No, it's not Christopher Walken. No, you're too young. You don't know. Jackie something. Oh, God.
Oh, okay.
What's Jackie's
Hey,
name?
boo-boo. Hey, boo-boo.
It's not that one. No, it's not
Not that one either.
He did the Sullivan Show. He was guest hosting, and the camera was telling him to get off the air.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "Oh, what's that? Somebody's over there wagging a finger at me. Oh, I got a finger for you. I got a finger for you. I got a finger for you." And he was off the air for like a decade. Freezing.
That's awesome.
Anyway.
That's awesome. That's cool. So lower vocal register and more dynamic range means you're more dominant. Got it. Softer tone. A little less dynamic range, and then maybe you're a little bit more benevolent seeming. A little less dominant. More submissive maybe. Anywho, how about I give you some orders? Justin?
Yes.
Why don't you drink some beer?
Well, okay. If you insist, I guess I must, because you said words.
I did. Go smoke a cigarette.
No, that'll resist. Kissingering, too. Kissinger. Simone, that's somebody in the chat room.
Kissinger.
Absolutely. This explains Kissinger completely. The low vocal frequency. Why he speaks like that. He's doing mind control on people. He does. That's not his actual speaking voice. He learned this in some sort of CIA psychological warfare course, and now he talks like this. Jackie Mason was the voice the name I couldn't remember.
Thank you,
go. Steve Everett in the chat room.
That's right. So anyway, I was just getting at a study, couple of psychological studies that came out this month. The first came out in Journal of Consumer Research, and the researchers who published this study told a bunch of people to do things that are normally considered vices. So they either gave them a choice between a carrot or a brownie, and they told them to eat the carrot. They ordered them to eat the carrot, or they ordered them to eat the brownie, or they gave them a choice between eating whatever it was or writing a short essay. And then they took a little test. They gave the people a little personality test afterwards, and they found that the individuals who took this questionnaire and did this little task, that their vitality, if they'd been ordered to eat the brownie, versus the carrot. And if they were the kind of person who was really against doing things like eating a brownie, doing something viceful, they were super full of vitality, they had high enjoyment levels, their happiness was great, like everything was awesome. There's no difference in hunger between the groups, and happiness was influenced on how much the people enjoyed the carrot or the brownie, and most people enjoyed the brownie more than the carrot. However, to figure out whether or not this was only a food-related issue, they gave people this vitality boost. They gave people a choice, again, between a book full of celebrity gossip, a gossip rag, or a computer programming tutorial. And they were ordered to read the celebrity gossip mag, or they were ordered to read the computer programming tutorial. And then other people got to choose what they wanted to do. And if people did not have a choice about reading the gossip mag, they were more filled with vitality compared to people who actively chose, who had the choice and decided to read the gossip mag. And so people who were on this scale of chronic guilt, so people who guilted themselves all the time about doing things like, oh, I really shouldn't do that, oh, I really shouldn't do that, they saw even more of a boost than people who normally do not experience as much guilt.
Oh yeah, nothing's funner than breaking the rules. Yeah.
Yes, there's nothing more fun, but there's something about this particular situation where you're not just breaking the rule, you are being told by somebody else to do it. Mm-hmm. So even though, like, if you have a choice between the brownie and the carrot, and you know you should eat the carrot, but you want to eat the brownie, you're on a diet. I should eat the carrot, but I want that brownie. You eat the brownie, you're going to be excited for just a little bit because you ate that brownie. But overall, it's not going to give you as much of a boost as if somebody took the responsibility of the choice away from you and put it on their own shoulders and told you to do it. So you broke the rule, but because somebody else told you to do it.
I'm slightly suspicious about the brownie thing of somebody who wouldn't normally eat a brownie, because then I'm like, well, they're just not used to getting a sugar rush. That's my first reaction there was.
But that's why they checked with the books, the magazines. That's why they checked into the gossip rag versus computer programming.
Yeah. So I can take this back to there was a time doing a ride and drive where the auto manufacturer has got the new version of their car out there, and they're telling you, okay, you get a long strip, and there's a big turn at the end. It's all pylons out in the middle of a parking lot. Get the car up to 45 miles an hour. At the end, make that turn, but don't use your brakes. You're going to feel the traction control stability stuff kick in, and And it's like, well, this is like, I would not do this in my own car. This is not sane behavior. But somebody's telling me to do it, and it's not my car. It did make it really fun. It was like driving that car like I stole it and getting to do stuff. So I kind of get that. I mean, I could have any time taken a 45-mile-an-hour turn in my own car.
But because
but not interested in doing it at all, any way, shape, or form. Being told to do it, yeah, okay, this is not my car. They think this is going to end well. Let's go. Let's rock and roll. I'll take it through the course.
Right. So there's this is a single study, but there's stuff to consider. So like the choice of being able to do something that is a vice versus being kind of having that choice taken away from you by social influence or whatever else might actually have a bigger impact. And then a second study in psychological science looked at individuals and categorized them into different chronotypes. Chronotypes are the description of whether or not you are a night owl or a morning person. So they like to call people morning larks or night owls. And then there are people who are intermediate who aren't really either one. I think I'm kind of an intermediate, although I'm not really sure. I don't know. Things have gotten weird since I had a child. But anyhow, has been a study that's been relied upon for some time where individuals were given tests first thing in the morning or at night, and people were more likely to cheat on the tests the later in the day it was. And so this recent study looked at the same study, the same idea. They did a morning test session and they did an evening test session, and counted in the factor of people's natural chronotypes, what kind of person they were when it came to time of day and when they reported having the most energy. Additionally, the time of day when they had these tests was completely different from the original study. So the original study kind of gave people a time during the morning that they could take the test from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then the afternoon sessions were from 3 to 6 p.m. And so those were the two sessions that they found. The 3 to 6 p.m. sessions, more people cheated. The chronotype sessions, they were only from 7 to 8:30 a.m. in the morning, and then again at midnight to 1:30 a.m. So like really stretching the ends of the chronotypes. And they found that the more people, that it seemed to switch depending on what the chronotype was, that people who were morning larks were more likely to cheat on or be likely to do something dishonest on these tests that were from midnight to 1:30 a.m. Whereas the night owls were more likely to cheat during the tests in the morning. And then the intermediates were intermediate. So when they took this chronotype into account, it made the study out to be completely different. So there is something to be said for the amount of willpower that we have during the day, how much mental energy that we have to be able to withstand the urges for vices or for cheating on things, for taking the easy route out. And it really might not be as simple as energy levels during the day. This study actually indicates that aside from what they let me see, let me make sure I've got the terms correctly. Outside of homeostatic processes, you have circadian rhythms. And so people with different chronotypes are going to have different circadian rhythms. Homeostatic processes are like your metabolism, things making you tired. And so the original study seemed to make it out to be homeostatic processes winning out. You just get tired, everyone gets tired, you're going to be more likely to cheat. But this makes it seem as though circadian rhythms trump homeostasis when it comes to willpower.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I'm a night owl for sure. You can never call me too late at night. I'm up. But there are hours in the morning in which you will not get a hold of me because
Right.
I'm here, but I don't hear you.
Yes.
But yeah, I would definitely say I am much more likely to be a criminal in the morning. You know?
And right now, I'm just checking at Scanner Says, the Twitter account that follows the Bay Area police scanners. And right now, we are finding that at Powell and Market, the SFPD has reported the crowd has taken over 2 SF Muni buses, and they're climbing on top of them. There's another current status somewhere else that says pretty peaceful, no knuckleheads, and SFPD units responding to Alta Plaza Park to something else. But anyway, there are crowds. There are crowds all over San Francisco as a result of the
Higgs boson being discovered.
No,
it's incredible. People are pouring out into the streets.
The SF
They're shouting
Giants.
from the bus
won the
stops,
World Series.
shutting down the streets of San Francisco.
And I just
Celebration for this
wonder.
monumental scientific discovery. We can just edit this in. We'll just edit this in. We'll pretend. We'll put this back in time. And pretend this is covered.
This is not a radio play. This is a science show, Justin. Jeez.
Wow. Yeah. So.
And
sports is cool. I get it. Don't destroy your city. That's all. Actually, you know what? It's
I wonder if these are all morning larks who are out too late and they're just not making appropriate choices.
And you know what? I think this is actually, for all the disappointed fans in Kansas City, and there must be hundreds of them who are fans of the Royals. The one consolation that they have in not having one is the fact that the city of San Francisco will get somewhat vandalized by the winning team. That's sort of always the consolation, it seems, in sports. It's like, yeah, Philadelphia won, LA won, Boston won, but they're gonna wreck their city over the night. So that's what we get. Their city vandalized as recompense for our sports ball.
Exactly.
Failure.
I have some quick headlines. Quick headlines so we can wind up the show. An Antares rocket run by Orbital Sciences exploded at launch yesterday, destroying over 2,000 kilograms of supplies for the International Space Station. However, none of the supplies were critical, so there is no danger of astronauts currently on the ISS running out of things in the immediate future.
2,000 kilograms. Is that a lot?
That's a lot.
Man, let me check how much that is. Oh my goodness, that's like 2 million grams
You're
of equipment.
an amazing. Did I get the units right? I'm pretty sure I got the units right. Yeah, 2,300 kilograms of cargo.
Oh no, 2,300. Oh my goodness, that's even more.
Over 2,000.
5,000 pounds of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff. Additionally, on the Ebola front, what is
wait, sorry. I know we're doing headlines. I know we're hurrying up, but who is the? It didn't sound. I thought that wasn't NASA.
No, it was a Orbital Sciences who has contracted with NASA to
it's a private launch.
It was a private launch, but for a public purpose. Orbital Sciences. It is a public launch because it was. Orbital Sciences has a craft that they've been trying to develop for cargo supply missions to the International Space Station.
So what people may not realize, but with all this private industry may or may not realize, is NASA blew up a lot of rockets without payload.
Oh, yeah.
Before they started putting payload on the rockets. I just want to point out, you might want to spend a little more time launching rockets without payload.
They're doing it.
Developing.
They're launching rockets. They're doing it.
Then load it up, okay?
Nah. No one was injured. No humans were injured in this explosion.
This time.
Right. Hopefully it won't happen again. Although NASA is being asked a lot of questions about their policies relating to private contractors and supplying the space station and future missions at the moment. On the Ebola front, we have a nurse in New Jersey who's from Maine. She volunteered to help treat Ebola patients, came back, was put into quarantine by Chris Christie in New Jersey. Not really just quarantine, but also isolation. And the specifications for quarantine versus isolation are: quarantine is to separate somebody from the rest of the population to see if they develop symptoms. Isolation is when they're sick. Isolation is when you're kind of put in a negative air situation and things are taken care of much more deliberately. She was put in isolation, actually, when she came into New Jersey on her way back home to Maine.
By who?
by Chris Christie, by the CDC,
Okay,
because
the
as she
CDC
came
is one thing.
through,
The CDC's decision is
as
to do
but
this.
no, but it was the governor's decision to do it actually after to keep her in isolation, even after she was tested and came negative for Ebola. As she came through the New Jersey airport, people took her temperature, and there was some frustration. She was running, I guess, with a forehead scanner, was running a 101 degree temperature, which is a temperature. So they were like, you're sick, go into isolation. But then she tested negative. And now they're saying that in Maine, she's supposed to go into quarantine in her own home until the 21-day period since her last contact with an infected individual passes. She says she's not going to submit to a 21-day quarantine, and it is an ongoing story to see what ends up happening there. She is pressing charges saying that her rights are being taken away as an American citizen to be put into quarantine, also being put into isolation in the manner in which she was because she was not sick. She maintains that she is not sick, but she will submit via the CDC's rules and the Doctors Without Borders standards to daily temperature monitoring to determine whether or not anything does arise. So, what do we think? That's a question for everyone out there.
Yeah.
Should she be in quarantine? Should she, or is it okay if she tests her temperature every day?
No. Insufficient. I mean, well, if the CDC says that's fine,
Ebola,
then I'll go with the CDC.
The CDC says it's fine because with Ebola, you are asymptomatic. If you are asymptomatic, it means no temperature, you're not shedding virus.
Yeah.
You're not infectious.
Yeah, then I'd go with that. I don't think that Chris Christie is, and it's disappointing because he's one of the few politicians that's had the right comment on global warming.
That doesn't mean he's going to have the right comment on everything.
No, but it was specific to this. It was some Florida politician saying, "I'm not a scientist, but I don't see any evidence of global warming." And Chris Christie's rebuttal to it was, well, I'm not a scientist, but I have a brain, and I can ask a scientist, and they can tell me, and I can accept that answer. And so I don't know why it's not qualifying now, unless politics are involved, right?
This is the case. Politics are definitely involved. We're coming up to an election on Tuesday, November 4th. Everybody who's a U.S. citizen, you should be figuring out what the issues are and planning to head out to vote on whatever it is, however you want to vote. Tuesday, November 4th is a day to exercise your rights as a citizen in your local communities and also in your state government and at the federal level. So whether or not if science and evidence suggests that individuals are not infectious, that there should not necessarily be a 21-day quarantine. However, maybe there should be some amount of either a self-imposed or an organization mandated, like if you're with Doctors Without Borders, whoever it is that adds another 10 or 14 days to whatever trip you are on from the time that you leave the hospital where you're, or the center where you're helping infected individuals as a healthcare professional, that 10 to 14 days are tacked on to your visit in a hotel where you just kind of hang out and don't really mix with the general population. Take your temperature, just be safe so that people know where you are and it's all, hunky-dory. And then you can come home and say, I'm clean, things are good. Maybe that would work, but I don't know. Other headlines, the World Health Organization.
Ebola refugee in the chat room, Typhoid Mary was pretty ticked off too. Yeah, right. And yeah, there's
different tests since Typhoid Mary. Our medical system is a lot more developed since Typhoid Mary.
Well, yeah, but the point about Typhoid Mary is she just didn't believe it was possible that she could be contagious. and
Right, that is
therefore
true. That's right.
continued to work as a food preparer and
Hmm.
continued to infect and cause devastation to other people's lives. So I don't know. I don't know if I would trust a doctor to know what is and isn't, communicable. I'll trust a CDC scientist. I'll trust a microbiologist. I'll trust a test. I'll trust a quarantine. I'll trust whatever it takes. But a doctor, I don't know. Oh, hey, Blair. Blair is in the
Blair's in the
chat
chat
room
room.
saying, send her
Nice.
the invite, Kiki.
Well, we are almost done with the show. I was just going to finish it up. The World Health Organization puts numbers at 10,000 infected worldwide. And also, the California has enacted our own guidelines. So our state here that we are broadcasting from has deemed that California residents who are healthcare professionals or otherwise who have had contact with Ebola-infected patients are subject to a 21-day quarantine. And now this probably can be a quarantine in your own home, but there is some amount of separation that is being deemed necessary if you have been with infected patients before mixing with the general population.
And you won't be without pay.
And that's the whole thing, that you will not be financially harmed in this quarantine period. That is the most important thing, so that individuals will not be turned off to volunteering. Because for the Ebola pandemic to abate, we need to actually, for it to abate, we need to have volunteers on the front lines. We need to have people who are willing to go do that, and they're not going to if we make it really difficult.
But be sure, if you plan on spending Christmas with your family, stop volunteering by December 3rd. You want to make it. You want to get back to the States by December 3rd. And stop your volunteering in order to spend Christmas with the family. If you're looking for Thanksgiving, you better come quick, because that's coming up too. So stop volunteering so you can get your 21 days out of the way and you can have a happy Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Exactly. All right, everybody. I think that we are about at the end of our show.
We are at the end. Is there any way we can get Blair Baz in to help us finish up?
Why would we do that right now for the last 2 seconds?
Actually, there's a whole lot of words. It's a 3-person operation. So many words to say at the end of the show.
I can read her part. We're almost done, and then I'll bring her in for post-show. Why are you making this a discussion right now that I have to edit out? Just let me do things as the producer of the show and don't question me.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm in charge.
All I'm going to say is, Justin, drink a beer.
Justin, drink your beer. Gosh darn it, Patreon. You have moved things around. All right, here we go. I would really, really like to thank all of our Patreon sponsors for supporting us and for allowing us to continue to do this show on a weekly basis. Thank you so much. You really do allow us to do the things that we do. Brian Condren, Kevin Donald Wesley Ballard, Paul D. Disney, Sam Winzier, John Ratnaswamy, Rudy Garcia, Steve DeBell, Audrey Burgess, Stephen B., Jason Dozier, Matthew Litwin, Eric Knapp, Andreas Oxstad, Jason Roberts, Patrick Cohn, Shannon Tara, Ginsburg, Byron Lee, E.O., Bob Calder, Jared Lysette, Ulysses Adkins, Jake Jones, Brian Hedrick, Cassie Lester, Chris Cross, Sarah Chavez, Steven Soroyak, Layla, Paul Stanton, Marshall Clark, Charlene Davidson, Henry, Violated Gorilla, Don Kamarechka, Randy Mazuka, Ed Dyer, Tony Steele, Lord Trentonian Moody, Larry Garcia, Daryl Lambert, Richard Bowersox, Kevin Parachan, James Dobson, Steve Goodwin, Kurt Stefan, Michael George, Craig Landon, Russell Jensen, Mountain Sloth, Jim Drapeau, Darren Lute, Tara Payne, Alex Wilson, John H. Maloney, Jason Olds, Gordon Grant, James, Paul West, Lauren Lang, Ed Bennett, Thomas Mikinen, Alec Doty, Illumin Lama, Nick Gradwell, Dan Rambo, Dougal Campbell, TMRO, Miko Pakala, Craig Porter, Adam Mishkan, Aaron Luthen, Marjorie, Scott Lajewski, Tyler Harrison, Ben Rothig, Columbo Ahmed, and Gary Swinsberg. Thank you so much for your support. We could not do this without you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Not all. Let's see. Oh, what do we have going on next week's show?
Next week's show, we're having a show. Once again, we're going to be broadcasting live online, 8 p.m. Pacific time, TWIS.org/live on Wednesday, where you can watch and join our chat room. Don't worry if you can't make it. You can find past episodes at youtube.com/thisweekinscience and at TWIS.org for the audio versions. Don't forget to tell a friend about TWIS, and if you would like to support us, maybe go look at our Patreon page, patreon.com/thisweekinscience.
Thank you, everyone, for enjoying the show. TWIS is also available as a podcast. Just search for This Week in Science in your iTunes directory, or TWIS for Droid in your Android marketplace, or This Week in Science in the new iPhone podcast app. For more information on anything you heard here today, show notes will be available on our website, www.twis.org. We can also make comments and start conversations with the hosts and other listeners. Or you can contact us directly. Email Kirsten at thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twisminion@gmail.com, or Blair at blairbaz@twis.org. Be sure to put TWIS, TWIS, somewhere in the subject line, or your email will be spam filtered into oblivion. You can also hit us up on the Twitter, where we are at TWIScience, at Dr. Kiki, at JacksonFly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you would like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, a haiku that came to you in the night, please let us know.
And we will be back here next week, and we hope that you will join us once again for more great science news.
And if you've learned anything from tonight's show, remember,
it's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth, and I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got one disclaimer, and it shouldn't be news, that what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just better understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy. Jeopardy. And This Week in Science is coming your way. So everybody listen to everything we say, and if you use our method instead of rolling a die, we may rid the world of toxoplasma gondii. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got a laundry list of items I want to address, from stopping global hunger to dredging Loch Ness. I'm trying to promote more rational thought, and I'll try to answer any question you got. But how can I ever see the changes I seek when I can only set up shop 1 hour a week? This Week in Science is coming your way. You better just listen to what we say. And if you've learned anything from the words that we've said, then please just remember it's all in your head. Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in 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 Science.
All right, Blair, unmute yourself. Tell me,
Hello.
is that a wig?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? It's your Halloween costume.
Yes, yeah.
I like it.
Part of my Halloween costume.
I like it. It's punky. It's super cute. I like it.
I don't think I'd actually chop my hair off, though.
No, even though it's fun. That's why wigs are
Very
the
fun,
best.
but I'm not confident my hair would do this.
Right.
And I guess we're joined now by Rachel Maddow. Rachel, welcome to This Week in Science.
You know,
Rachel wears
I
glasses.
would not have a problem being Rachel Maddow.
No.
She's pretty awesome.
What's your Halloween costume?
I'm going to be Jubilee from the X-Men.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I was wondering, you said that you were going to be Jubilee. You said you were going to be someone from the X-Men, and I was trying to figure out exactly who you meant. So awesome. I'm going to pull up some images here.
So it's the
That's
actual 90s
fun.
cartoon character, Jubilee, not like the weird
Yeah.
2000s version of her that's oddly, inappropriately sexy. That's not what I'm doing. I'm doing the 90s cartoon show, Jubilee.
Right. So there's the difference between this. There's the difference between this here, 90s Jubilee, and
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
or 2013 Jubilee.
Yeah, no.
If I didn't know that
90s Jubilee.
what Blair was supposed to look like, I would have just thought that's what you looked like.
What, with this hair?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks good, right?
Yeah, it looks very realistic. I would not.
Did you find pink glasses like the ones that Jubilee has?
Yeah, here. Hold, please.
That's awesome. Yeah? Oh, she put us on hold for real. I wonder. She's got the pink
People
glasses.
seem to know who this
She's
Jubilee
got to have a
is.
yellow.
I've never heard of.
Wow, that's a lot of costume pieces for this outfit.
I never figured. I
Where do
don't
you
know.
find a yellow trench coat? Man.
Oh, yeah, Whiskey Renegade. They're talking about the Pope agreeing with Big Bang and evolution.
Oh yeah, there was that.
And opening up potential for gay marriage to even be not against the church. Or at least homosexuality, not to be
Just homosexuality, not necessarily gay marriage.
in a conversation to him. Yeah.
Yeah, not that the
No,
Catholic
they haven't
Church
gotten
would
there. You're right.
allow that, but that why don't you just be nice to people was kind of the.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness! Look at this.
But
This isn't even the
Wow.
complete picture here.
how did you do that? That jacket.
Internet?
Ah, nice.
Yeah, so this is the internet. I got yellow gloves.
Nice.
I need to fold these up still. And then I bought these awesome pink glasses and I painted them with nail polish last night.
Sweet.
Oh, wow. My son
Score.
Sebastian put together
Score for
a-
crafty points.
My son's put together a complete Fourth Doctor costume for
Awesome.
this. I don't have I don't have a picture of it yet. I'm gonna have to get one. I'll share it next week. But he's got it down. He's looking just like the Fourth Doctor. He even went and ordered, because of the internet, jelly babies. He wouldn't do with having gummy bears or jelly bellies.
Jelly babies.
He's got jelly babies.
Perfect. Perfect. Blair, awesome costume. That's a lot of. Those are pieces. Those are
Yeah,
pieces.
and I have a hot
costume.
pink turtleneck, and I got an X-Men patch, and I got the earrings that she actually wears,
What?
and I have blue Bermuda shorts and blue boots.
What inspired this particular costume?
I've wanted to do this costume for a long time, and somebody this year told me, just make it happen. You can do it. You have the time. Just do this costume. I'm like, okay.
Okay, I'll do it. Yay!
Yeah.
Sweet. I love it. You look awesome. I can't wait to see pictures from your fun Halloween
There will
night.
be pictures on Twitter, everyone, at Blair's Menagerie.
Awesome. So, did you teach people good science tonight?
I did. I taught teachers how to teach about climate change.
Yay. And it went over well?
It did. It went over well.
Cool.
Perfect. So I guess it was a good reason to miss TWIS. I mean, come on, but I guess it was a good reason. I scheduled it before we moved. So I scheduled it like 3 months ago, like, oh, Wednesdays are fine.
Yeah. But then we're like, but Thursdays really aren't working anymore, so. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Sparklers. I'm probably not going to use Sparklers Whiskey Renegade because that's kind of dangerous. But I have some indoor parties to go to. But
Are you sure you didn't cut your hair?
I'm sure.
I know.
What I do I have this. This is what I have. So I haven't decided yet. I might cut up the pom-pom a little bit and like attach it to a glove, like,
That'd be cool.
But I don't know.
It would get annoying though at a certain point.
Yes, I don't know. I haven't decided.
Yeah. You do look really good with the really short hair.
Well, thanks.
You look great with long hair too, but it's cool.
Oh,
It's
you.
cool. So what you can do with your long hair is like do like a low kind of ponytail French twist and then twist it up so that you pin all the hair so it comes into the front spiky like it is right now.
Ah.
So it looks like you have short hair, but you don't.
I need to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
This is fun. I like the mohawky part.
It's so fun. So fun. So something today I read an article. So go back to the Pope and the evolution thing. I read an article by Jerry Coyne, who's an evolutionary biologist and also an atheist, and he was saying why what the Pope actually said isn't really a big deal and doesn't change the Church's position on evolution at all. Is because he still included, even though he said what everyone's quoting in the headline is, God is not a magician. All right, but he still invoked the idea of a creation at some point, and it's unclear whether... Wait. It's unclear by his statements whether or not he still meant that there was the Big Bang was creation, and then humans were created separately with the potential to evolve with everything else, or because he still said that he basically said humans were created specially. So there's some parsing of language that needs to be done there. And then additionally, the creation, it's not clear whether humans are involved in the original creation. And so Jerry Coyne was going in this whole thing saying like, well, unless he wants to believe that Unless he just gets rid of the idea of God being involved in any of this at all, he's really not pro-evolution.
That's dumb.
That's kind of, I agree with you there, Blair. I was reading this article and I'm like, man, that is just a boneheaded way to look at this. It's like you get the opportunity to have it not be like, oh, the entire creation story is truth. You have some guy in the church saying that, basically, and it's awesome. That's great.
Well, yeah, we love when we're thrown a crumb by the head of an otherwise completely devout mythology. But this isn't new. Also, this also isn't completely new. Benedict, of course, the previous Ratsberger, whatever his name was a step backwards.
He was awful. Yeah.
For scientific literacy within the church, but Pope John Paul II, was it the previous,
yeah,
also came out and said that the
evolution is cool.
Is not completely at odds with the creation story. These aren't.
They're not incompatible.
This isn't a battle here. This isn't a fight. But of course, yes, they are looking to maintain the mythology. And actually, if there is one takeaway that I wish people would, did either of you ever study any time in your education Greek religions? Just put your hand up, either of you, if you studied at some point any
Greek
religion.
The Greek myths? Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, okay. Kiki too, put your hand up. You studied Greek religion?
A bit, yeah.
Okay. Now, keep your hands up for a second. This is a little experiment I'm doing here. Keep your hand up. Kiki, get your hand back up. I can't see it.
I don't like playing your reindeer games.
I know you don't, but here it is. Think back now as I further alliterate upon this question and say, were all of those studies prefaced in a pamphlet, a textbook, a handout, a section that you were studying as Greek mythology and not Greek religion? But you can put your hands down if it was mythology and not religion. There we go. So this is the takeaway that I would like us to have, because there was nobody who was devoutly following Greek mythology ever throughout history. Nobody ever did. They were following what they were calling a Greek religion. Now, in the modern context, we can call it mythology. We study it as mythology. We know it as mythology. And I'd like us, just the TWIS listening audience, anybody who's there, to please keep this in your mind next time you hear the word religion. Replace it instantaneously, edit it in your mind with the word mythology. And when we refer to somebody as being a head of a religion, remove the word religion, it's a meaningless word, and use the word that we know academically to be correct and call it mythology. The Pope is the head of a world mythology. And that's, I think, the way we need to see it. And when you put it in that context, you can excuse this belief system. You can understand this belief system better because they're a believer in a mythology, just as though anybody today was saying that Zeus did this or Zeus did that, or if Odin is...
But regardless, we still do not know what came before the Big Bang. And even if there were millions of billions of Big Bangs before the Big Bang that created the universe that we exist within, what started the chain? What got it going? We have absolutely no idea. Maybe there is. Who knows? And some people believe in a God, in a creator that created the universe, and maybe they're not wrong, because science cannot approach that question. And that is something that I think scientists get really, and atheists get very obdurate and also kind of on a high horse about things that we actually cannot disprove. We cannot disprove that there was nothing before we began, that there is nothing to believe in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
but
we also don't have any evidence. We also don't have any evidence for it within our universe now. Like, you can believe in the power of God, the creator, whatever it is in our daily life. I don't know about that. That's not something that I can necessarily talk about. That's not something that we can argue about. Evolution, however, what's happening right now is that the Catholic Church is seeing that science is important. And they do not want to lose their foothold to their power around the world as the world changes and as science gains a greater and greater foothold. And so the Catholic Church is trying to remain relevant.
Yes.
How do
Then
they?
shed away your mythology.
That's what they're working on.
Before you incarcerate your people to a future without science, do
No,
away
they're
with the mythology.
No, they're reframing the conversation. So now where evolution is not incompatible, where they can be together, now the Pope, the church is coming out, they're reframing it and saying, no, evolution's all right. We can get along. This is all good. We can have science. We can have a religion. It's all okay. Because it doesn't answer that question about what happened before. And they're right.
Yep.
Yes.
There are lots
the
of people that
the danger there.
that believe in both, and that's valid.
Right.
It's fine.
So most of the recorded stars that we can see with the naked eye have Arabic names. Many of the names of stars have Arabic names. Algebra is an Arabic word. Okay? The number 0, the important concept of 0, it came from Arabia. This is a place, though, which, because the mythology has been allowed to dominate for so long, has done nearly nothing to advance science in 1,000 years.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm talking about. Now, there is a possibility that religious embracement of science is a potential positive, to me only in that the mythology must continue to disappear from the conversation. Because what becomes really insidious, though, what I've seen, is the attempt to insert scientific claims to back up mythological beliefs. And this keeps happening. They keep attempting, well, because, yes, but we don't put in our conclusion before the Big Bang of what was there without evidence. As an atheist, as a scientist, as anything. You can speculate, but you don't say affirmatively, I know how the Big Bang happened. The scientific view and the mythology says, we know all the unknown answers. They all have the same answer. It's this meaningless word that we've called God, that we all mean differently, that we all believe differently, that we all disbelieve. In fact, one of the most common belief systems in the world is atheism. This is the thing we most share with anybody of any philosophy or ideology is atheism. There may be 1 billion Hindus in the world, but they're all atheists.
When they're born.
And everybody else who's in the world is an atheist to Hinduism. So we all agree with this on one level. We're all atheists to thousands of religions. Some of us have clung on to one or two mythologies, despite being able to be atheistic to the rest.
There's something here, though. Remember what was the name of the UC Santa Cruz astrophysicist and his wife who we interviewed ages back about their book? They've written a couple of books, and basically they're trying to cross a divide where people see science as, what it does is it takes the human factor out of discovering the universe, even though there are humans doing it. Religion is entirely human. Religion is our basal instincts. Religion is the system that we fit within because we created it, and it doesn't take us out.
Oh, it completely does.
Well, no, I don't think so. In terms of the human,
it destroys us and makes us completely meaningless and worthless. When they tell you that love comes from your God.
Well, I'm just trying to say that there's something that is going to be lacking if we go strictly to a science-only world. I think that it misses the human element. the
It
human
doesn't. Well,
element
this
of
pursuit of science is meant to miss the human element because it's
right.
trying to look at look at the world through eyes that aren't influenced through all the human subjectivity. There are other things beyond that. There's art, there's culture, there's humanity, there's the humanities, there's life, there's love, there's poetry, there's these things emanating from people.
Yeah.
The
Philosophies.
despicable thing that I see in religions is that even love is not from a human being. That is owned. It is the territory of the god, and therefore it is the domain of the religion and the mythology to determine who's allowed to love, who can love who
In
can marry who.
science, it
And
gets
even
broken
the love,
down to
even the love for your
oxytocin and freaking
newborn child,
hormones, pheromones, and things.
first held
You
little
don't really
kind,
love.
that
You
wasn't
lust,
your
and
love.
then you have hormones.
That wasn't
That's
your
it.
love for your child. That was God. Through
Yeah, science does the it's just breaking it down in different ways.
No, it's not. I mean, I do agree to some extent that a lot of the brain's automated mechanisms have been co-opted by religion to describe them. You know, we have this controlling part of our brain that does seem to make us do things. And in the ancient Greeks, they said, well, it's the god of love or the god of remorse or the god of war or the god of judgment or whatever that would act and make you do stuff. But ultimately, no. Us as individuals, as humans, that's what we are. And it's more than people think it is if they think they need a god or a religion or a mythology to base it on. Being a human being, it's really a bigger deal. It's pretty special. It's pretty unique. It's pretty amazing. And you don't need an extra mythology to control it or to put it in the context of an afterlife, which is also a despicable thing because it means you can suffer the king and the landowner's whips throughout your life because your reward comes in some afterlife, which is exactly how all these young men and women are being coerced into suicide and homicide throughout the Middle East right now. This idea that this is a salvation. I mean, wow, a mythology created by a conquering general is thousand years later turning into an attempt to create a commanding general type religion. The caliphate that's taking place in the Middle East right now isn't outside. It's not an outlier of Islam. This is the core. This is who created it. It was a conquering general. This is the actual reading of the text that's in there. You know, Thomas Jefferson did a great job. He created a condensed version of the Bible where he eliminated all this stuff. He's like, well, science has proven that's not right. I totally don't agree with this. This is wrong. We don't need any of this. This didn't add to anything. He ended up with a very condensed version.
I like CR1 in the chat room. He says, in the end, all these insane ideas are the result of cat saliva.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. I think it all started, most of this stuff emanated from the Egyptians. A lot of it emanated from the Egyptians.
Right, and they had cats.
Big time cat people.
Worshipped cats,
Sure.
right?
But some people find great solace in some of this stuff, and I am not going to
Absolutely.
fault them
Absolutely.
for it at all.
I think finding solace, finding hope, there are lots and lots of positive things that people do find in religions, and there is, there's community in religion. There are all sorts of things that are just fabulous for social structure.
Yeah.
When it's just, but like anything, it can turn bad. People.
If you never take the cast off, the leg will never heal.
All right, but if you use that to find a way to help guide yourself to be a moral, good citizen, I'm not going to fault you for it.
Well, and there's an argument too. Most of these people who are acting morally
and I
are
think that's
only
the
doing it
problem.
because of their religion.
And you use it to ignore science, and you use it for other reasons, I will fault you for that, just like any other person in the world.
Yeah, and I think that is the main criticism that I have about scientists and atheists who do criticize people from religions wherever who come out and say, "Oh, climate change is happening," and it's all of a sudden they're on the side of science. It's like, no, this isn't sides. We're all the people. and they're viewing them and criticizing them for having come to where they are through religion. And if they're coming to a good place morally, spiritually through religion, fantastic. If you're, yeah, exactly. But if you're using it as an excuse to do all sorts of awesome, awful stuff, then that's awful. You're an awful person.
But not
The
necessarily.
way it is. You're an awful person. You're doing awful things. You're making awful choices. You're making bad choices.
Yes, but if they're
that's-
reinforced by a religion or your mythology, if the mythology is enacting this, is authorizing it, is demanding it of you. Oh, here's the thing, Kiki. Here's the study from earlier tonight. If your mythology orders you to kill anybody who isn't
Right, it
under your
removes the
mythology,
responsibility from you.
yeah, it does. It's not
And
your
then you
responsibility.
are-
My
And then
mythology
you
told me it
become
was,
more elated. And
Yeah.
yeah.
and I can do so. Yes, like an elated zealot.
Mhm. Maybe that is maybe that does come into there. Yeah, I don't know. That study did not
There's-
particularly go into that, but that's interesting.
There's shades of every type of person, right?
Absolutely.
So there are the people that don't believe in any science, won't give their children vaccines, won't give their children medicine. You know, there's all those kinds of people, won't teach their kids about climate change or evolution. But there's also people that do. And I am shocked at the great reception I have got to come to classrooms and teach kids about climate change and evolution in Christian and Catholic schools this year. I am shocked.
That's cool.
And if the teachers are up for it and they have designated science teachers and I come in and I say the words evolution and adaptation and climate change and all this kind of stuff and they don't bat an eye, I don't have a problem with it.
Mhm.
I think it's great.
There's extremists of every type of person.
Majority
Right.
are not extremists, and that's
Yeah.
what we always need to remember, is that the majority are normal.
There are extremist atheists that make me look bad. They're out there. So how about we just work to equalize the extremists of any type? That would be great.
I like that. I like that. Just outcast extremists.
Okay, well then there we go. We are gone now. The three of us have been
We are
eliminated.
not extremists. Nope.
Because
extremists.
of the religious communities, there is no more extreme view. In fact, there is no greater crime you can commit in these religions than the lack of faith.
But we are
And
not part
having
of that religious
faith in
community.
God
That's
makes
what I'm
it the
saying.
most extreme version, and they will again.
We're
we are
talking
not
about
Within a
in
community.
general, in a community, not not in that particular religion, but within an entire community, an entire population, an entire country. It's the extremists who are the issue.
But
at
I
the
don't.
same
I guess I
time-
don't understand because I've read these religious texts. It doesn't seem like the extremists have it wrong. It seems like that's what's in there.
So what I'm saying is you're not going to eliminate religion tomorrow. That's not going to happen, Justin. So if we're trying to be realistic...
How much time have I got?
If we're
What's my-
trying to be
what's my time frame?
realistic about the future of our society, we need to find a way to help welcome in those that want to hold on to their religion, that also want to look at science. Welcome them into our community. Help them out. Because you're not going to gain more people in the realm of science by cutting out everyone who believes in God. You're not going to get anywhere. And that's my point, is you and I might be atheists, and that's fine. Great. That means that we don't believe in God. That means that if I look at a religious person, I don't believe what they believe. But I'm not going to see community and global change on the realm of things that science is worried about by cutting out the majority of the world. And the majority of the world still has a religion. So you have to find a way to include those people and help welcome them into the scientific fold.
That's right.
Help me help you. And maybe in a few hundred years religion will be gone, but guess what? I don't think it will be. So we have to find a way to live with it.
That's right. Work within
Well,
it.
I don't think
And to serve.
I've ever spoken on not allowing mythology believing people to know about science. I don't think I've ever taken that point of view.
But you're not helping by taking that stance, by
By what
by
stance?
by reframing it
As mythology?
as mythology, no matter whether or not I agree with you.
No, right, no.
Taking that stance and
Right.
outwardly saying it,
I
you're not
should not have
winning.
the courage of the child who says the emperor has no clothes.
No, you're
I'm
not
afraid of the child
winning
who just
anyone
spoke
over.
obvious truth.
You're not
None of us
reaching
should have this
anyone
courage.
other than people who are already listening to you.
Instead, we should critique.
You're in an echo chamber.
When appropriate, we should critique the emperor's clothing. We should say that it perhaps is a derivative of 13 or 14 different previous designs that we'd already seen, so it's not that original. We could say, but the colors sort of seem to clash here and there.
I know what you're saying.
There's no clothes. It's
I know what
mythology.
you're saying.
I'm at the same time not going to spend a heck of a lot of time debating people who believe in Bigfoot. I'm just not. I'm just not going to be that tolerant of it. And I don't need to be. There's no need for me to be tolerant of mythology.
There is, because that mythology is alive today. If there were people that believed in Greek mythology today, you would have to respect them. That's where we are. Sorry.
Well, I don't have to on this show. And further, I won't. So
I guarantee you some of the TWIS minions are not atheists. I guarantee you.
Absolutely.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
Because they still love science, and that's all that counts, is that they care about science. And you can't make the two mutually exclusive. You just can't.
And I don't attempt to in any way, shape, or form.
Well, that's how you're talking.
No. I don't attempt to keep them from listening because they also believe in a mythology. I think that would be rude, and that's not my play. They're free human beings. They can do what they want. I would never dictate to them who they can or cannot marry. I would never dictate to them whether or not they should be allowed in this country or that or whatever. No, I would never do that. I would never prevent them from practicing their religion if it had a possibility or potential to cure all sorts of diseases, even though I disagreed with it. You see, and yet there's massive obstacles to stem cell research, actively enforced in this country. For no other reason than people believing in a mythology.
Well, things change over time, so we can work towards that. And the easiest way to work towards that is to have the people who believe in those religions, who are in political power, to get convinced of the science.
Yes.
That's the
I
easiest
totally
way.
agree.
That's why, guess what? Climate change and evolution are now in our standards for teaching children in this country.
Yeah.
Both of those things are. They're both there.
Yes.
It's a huge change.
It's massive. It's massive. We've come so far. Oh my gosh.
We've come so far. Just in the past, how many years? Not that many. We've come so far.
Ebola refugee. Again, atheism is a belief system no different than religion. Fine. I'll agree with you for this sake. Atheism is then the most agreed upon belief system in the history of mankind because most people are atheists to almost every single religion, some save one. This is the point. Atheism, all it really means is you don't believe in a mythology of religion. And saying that it's no different, it is different in that everybody seems to agree in atheism on every single religion save the one they may or may not believe in. And numbers in the United States is probably, truly religious people in the United States, it's probably something in the neighborhood of 50%, if even that. If even that. I'd even suspect it's the amount of people who actually don't believe
in any literal translation of their religion is much higher than 50%.
No, I would say it's lower.
Yeah, you would think so.
Lower.
When they do
It's
the polls,
like
and the reporting,
20%.
people
that.
claim to go to church at some crazy number, like 70% of Americans go to church each Sunday. If you do the numbers based on the population in the United States, there are not enough churches and pews out there for that to be anywhere near the number of people who are actually going to church. It's so much. I mean, it's hard to tell in a big city like San Francisco how many people are there, how many churches are there, how many pews are there on a Sunday.
There are a
even with
lot of churches.
2 or 3 services.
The
Right?
streets are all filled.
I'm looking in the city I'm at with the 80-something thousand people population all put together. Yeah, there's a bunch. There's a good handful, maybe half a dozen churches or more. But guess what? They're not fitting the population. They're not fitting half the population on a weekend going through those doors. Not even close. It's a fraction.
But those
It's a
people
small
that don't go
fraction
to
of it.
church probably still identify as religious. That's the difference.
You can identify, and then the amazing thing to me is how uninterested a lot of people who claim religion are in actually their own religion. Like, I don't think it's
Except
sort of
when push comes to shove, they will get down and pray. That's the difference.
the what?
That's what it comes down to, is that when they're in trouble or they need help or they need faith, they will get down and pray, which means they believe. And there's nothing wrong with that. Fine. But that's what I'm saying is I doubt more than 20% of America is atheist. And so you have to look at that,
it's much
and
higher.
you have to approach that. You have to approach science as something that everyone can experience, because perhaps if you don't believe in God, you can't go to church. But no matter what, you can participate in science. And that's the point. Science is for everyone because it's here and it's real and it's provable. And that's our point, is no matter what, science is here.
Yeah, science is there whether you believe it or not, as Neil deGrasse Tyson likes to say. And as St. Thomas Aquinas said, deny me the favor of the Lord if I seek it out of lust of heaven or fear of hell. Praying only when something bad goes on. It's against your religion, so you shouldn't pray. These are the uninvestigated questions there. Some of them.
But I'm saying that that's indicative of what you really believe.
Maybe, or maybe it just shows a lack of options. Maybe it shows that you have no other way of rationalizing the world, and that may be sad. Maybe there is something else.
Turning anyone away from science is a bad idea. And I think that's my point. Turning anyone away is a bad idea for any reason.
How would I do that?
You insult people.
How?
You disrespect them and you insult them.
Well, then if
Or you tell them
Because you don't
mutually
engage in a
exclusive.
conversation with them.
They would call anything else a mythology.
If you say that science and religion are mutually exclusive, you're turning people away.
Oh, well, then disclaimer. I'm turning people away who believe that science and religion aren't mutually exclusive.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge mistake. That's my disclaimer. I think it's a huge mistake to turn anyone away from science. You are causing problems.
I'll rephrase it. With the exception of the religion that you may believe in, all other religions are false and do not have any relationship with science. But the one that you may or may not believe in does.
Why are you saying this?
Because this is the point. This is what I've got. These are the mental gymnastics you have to do to keep up with.
And science is for everyone.
Science is for everyone, yes. For your religion as well may be compatible. Of course not the other religions that you don't believe in, because you're an atheist to those just like me, and we can agree those are all mythology. The one you believe in, I agree with you. Whatever that religion is.
No, but see, that's a bad way to look at it too, because you're allowing
yours and science may have some factoid along the way that are completely in sync.
But then you're allowing that person to turn away others from science.
So there's a great article that I think we all should read. That's actually really it was I read a bit of it and was trying to glance through it, and it's in the New Yorker. It's called "I Don't Want to Be Right," and it's written by Maria Konnikova, who has an awesome blog that I'm blanking on the name of right now, but basically goes into false beliefs and scientists who've done studies trying to figure out what they could do in messaging to get people to correct their false beliefs. And so this researcher Nyhan did a study where what do they do here? See if I can find it. Insanity, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, he found I'm trying to find the exact thing here. Research. So this guy got a degree, University of Bristol.
Ben
And they're
Horthick, correct.
studying.
No, you're not wrong. Everyone has the right to their own beliefs. They do not have the right to their own facts. If I say there is no physical evidence of a man called Jesus ever having walked the earth, it doesn't mean you're entitled to say that those facts exist, even though they do not.
Okay, I found it. So the report, they did a series of studies with colleagues in Western Australia to read a report of a liquor robbery that had taken place in, quote unquote, ostensibly taken place in Australia's Northern Territory. Everyone read the same report, but in some cases, racial information about the perpetrators was included, and in others, it wasn't. In one scenario, the students were led to believe that the suspects were Caucasian, and in another, that they were Aboriginal. At the end of the report, the racial information either was or wasn't retracted. Participants were then asked to take part in an unrelated computer task for half an hour, distraction. After that, they were asked a number of factual questions. What sort of car was found abandoned? And inference questions. Who do you think the attackers were? After the students answered all of the questions, they were given a scale to assess their racial attitudes toward Aboriginals. Everyone's memory worked correctly. The students could recall all the details of the crime and could report precisely what information was or wasn't retracted. The students who scored the highest on racial prejudice continued to rely on the racial misinformation that identified the perpetrators as Aboriginals, even though they knew it had been corrected. They answered the factual questions accurately, stating that information about race was false, yet they still relied on race in their inference responses, saying the attackers were likely Aboriginal or that the store owner likely had trouble understanding them because they were Aboriginal. So they identified this dynamic that strongly held beliefs continued to influence judgment despite correction attempts, even with a supposedly conscious awareness of what was happening. And so they then did a follow-up study, and what did they do here? It was similar to the original. The Aboriginal was the hero who disarmed the would-be robber. Students who had scored lowest in racial prejudice, who persisted in their reliance on false information in spite of any attempt at correction. They mentioned race more frequently and incorrectly, even though they knew that piece of information had been retracted. False beliefs, it turns out, have little to do with one's stated political affiliations are, and far more to do with self-identity. And so there's, anyway, it goes on, and there's just some really interesting stuff in here. What Nyhan goes on to say related to something where they tried to get people to change their beliefs about global warming, when they had individuals write an essay that they had to do things to write about something that made them feel good in their lives. So self-affirmation essays make them feel good, and then they were more likely to get away from those self-identification issues and were more likely to actually correct their misinformation. So there's some really interesting stuff in here, and I think I don't know. worth some thought as to how we approach things and how we, this is how people self-identify. And if you attack people's self-identification, you're attacking them.
Mm-hmm.
And that is going to just block any possible conversation.
Yep. I think, and that's kind of what I was getting at before, is we have a lot of very important issues coming up to science. We have a lot of pivotal moments in our very near future. And those pivotal moments mean we need everyone on board with these topics. And you can't get people all on board by excluding groups.
Yeah.
The only way you're going to get everyone on board with these pivotal conversations is by including everyone. And the whole point of science is that it's not a closed club. It's for everybody. Everybody understands how science works. Everybody has the chance to share.
I think the problem that we get at here about when it comes to questions like climate change and evolution, when it comes to talking to religious groups, the issue is that the science may undermine their self-identity. It undermines the beliefs that they have. It undermines things that they have held to be true for their entire lives. And so it's a gut reaction to reject.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. And that's why the Pope saying something like this is so important, because this is a whole group of people's spiritual guidance. And if he's saying you can believe in science, that means they can then open their minds to it. And it is not an attack on their personal identity, which is huge.
Yep, that's exactly it.
It's fantastic. I don't have to follow the Pope to be excited about this news.
I still think Jerry Coyne's article was a bit dickish. We don't need scientist dicks out there going blah 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 blah.
Yeah, no, I'm all for this Pope. I think this Pope is going to make much greater impact. He seems to understand that he has an opportunity to actually affect positive things in the world, and he seems to be the guy who's willing to do so. As much, and I'm only comparing this one to other popes, not to what would I do as Pope, right? Because I'm not. I'm not the head of any mythology, other than I think I have convinced my kids that we may come from a foreign planet. But that's their mythology they'll have to grow out of. But yeah,
Yes.
I think this is. I'm very much in favor of the Pope's comments. It made me warm and fuzzy when John Paul II said the same thing. However many decades ago that was. It hasn't affected a whole lot in the United States, but again, we tend to be more politically oriented in our religious divisions than other places, I think. But then maybe much less so than others.
Yeah.
But yeah, would we be having these issues, though, Blair? I mean, would we be having these conversations about having to appease somebody's mythological views if we somehow figured out a way to be done with this a long time ago?
Is that a worthy conversation? If a frog had wings, it wouldn't bump its ass so much either. Like, it's here. Let's deal with what's here. What's going on right now? Yes, ideally, without religion, there'd be a lot of things not in our way right now. Fine, good. You know what? Without Tea Party Republicans, there'd be other things not in our way too. But both things exist, so
Okay.
it's time we learn how to
So
deal
Blair,
with
now
it.
you were against it the last time I proposed it. Yes, brothers and sisters, hallelujah. We got to stop at the global warming because this is an attack by the devil against the Lord's creation. I mean, do we go that route? I mean, is that what you want? You want to appease? You want to join the mythology? Because I can do it. I've always wanted to be.
You don't have to join the mythology.
The traveling preacher.
You are being obtuse on purpose right now.
does it
I
all the
am
time.
a wide angle, just so you know. I've got a wide angle on everything. I don't take a narrow view. So yeah, call me obtuse all you want. I am not narrow-minded. That's what obtuse means, right? It's a large angle.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
got
yeah.
that.
Okay,
All right, okay,
yeah,
okay.
I don't take a narrow view. I am obtuse by nature.
All right, all
So
right.
here's the thing, too.
We
Here's the
know
thing.
that.
Like, yeah, I kind of agree. There's that level of, I mean, one of the greatest arguments for mythology I've ever heard was, hey, there's a lot of people who only aren't criminal psychopaths because they're dedicated to their religion, and their religion gave them commandments, and that's why they do it. And part of me is like, yeah, we need to have mythology to keep people from being complete animals. But I also don't believe that the educated mind is prone to criminal behavior. So what I really think is like, well, this is a crutch. I mean, this works, but there is a better alternative. There is something that creates a nice society where people aren't, animals, and it's not religion. It's just they've got a different education that's got them doing it, but they don't know why they're doing it. And if the veil of their mythology should fall, what would they do? Go, according to them, they would go raping and killing and pillaging and murdering, and they'd have no reason not to because they don't have a religion anymore.
Yeah, of course.
I do agree
We've
that we
talked
should
before about
keep religion.
altruism and all these kinds of things, so there are scientific explanations. But
Yeah.
and I
I'm having a hard time taking.
recognize
I
that.
do feel like I'm talking to Maddow right now. I really do. This is really surreal.
He's practicing.
Well, anyway, I think that we need to keep the doors of science open, and if someone can find a way to reconcile their religion with science, I am excited about it. That's what it comes down to. I'm excited about it. It's not for me. That doesn't matter. I'm excited.
I'm excited with you, Blair.
Good.
I am.
Good.
Yeah,
I'm
I just hope this doesn't devolve into endless God of the Gap scenarios being infiltrated into science the way the Hindu Brahmin consciousness has just completely permeated anything with the word quantum in front of it. Everything with the word quantum in front of it now has a consciousness version of a video. Go
But it's the
YouTube quantum
same
consciousness.
thing.
That's all you
It's
need
like
to do.
The Secret and like all those other what the bleep and all those weird new age
It's all
videos.
Brahmin, Hindustani
So annoying. Yeah.
belief system. Yeah, and it's
'cause we don't
completely
know enough.
corruptive. And now
Because we
there's
don't
people
know
who've gone out and attempted to learn what's this deal with quantum physics. I'll watch this What the Bleep movie. I'll watch this quantum consciousness. Oh, so quantum physics has to do with consciousness pervading everything. This is the danger, and I warn you strongly on this. Accepting the mythology as an equal translator of scientific information, or finding a way to combine scientific understanding of the universe, and it's corruptive, it's corrosive, and it's going to be used for the agenda of separating science from the capacity of the viewer to even understand it in the least.
Very possibly, but if you don't try to take the long view of communication and getting ideas across to people and understanding that not everything's going to happen right away, if you don't take that long view, then you separate and you isolate. And we're going to end up with, even more so than now, people thinking of scientists as elitist and not members of the community, the world. Scientists will be thought of as completely separate from religions and other things, which they're not. There are scientists who go to church. There are scientists who believe in God in their own way. There is so much, there's so much.
Yeah. One of the lead scientists that cracked the human genome was a creationist.
Absolutely. He's the head of the National Science Foundation now. I've interviewed him, and he is a very kind man. He's really nice.
Also believes that blacks are genetically inferior, if you've ever had one that work for you.
No, you know what? You know who does that? That's oh my gosh, Watson.
Watson, I'm sorry.
Watson, one of the co-discoverers of the structure of DNA, an atheist scientist, believes that blacks are inferior.
Bam.
So there we go.
The problem is if you start preaching atheism and you start
Which
forcing
I do,
issues
but only when
everywhere.
somebody comes to my door.
atheism will become a religious doctrine, which is exactly what we're not trying to do. We want atheism to be something that people come to naturally when they are ready. That's the only way to keep it from being another religion. Because for me, I want to make sure that atheism is not like a religion, is not preached.
And I recommend, there's a book that came through, I'm going to blank on it. There's a book that came through written by Curtis White, Science Delusion. And I've read through it, and I know you took a look at it, Blair, and we're kind of like, is that going to be an anti-science book? Blah. But I actually think it makes some wonderful points about the risk of scientism, which is like it's turning science into a belief system as opposed to the tool that it is. And there is a lot of that going on right now, and it's a very well-written, well-researched book, and I actually recommend it. There is a lot of scientism out there, and we kind of need to be on the lookout for that ourselves as to whether or not we're going, yeah, science, and being cheerleaders without actually stopping to question sometimes the structure of what we are cheering for. And I think that is so essential. If you're going to be a skeptic, if you're going to be a scientist, if you're going to follow the rules, you have to question everything.
Yep, which is part of whenever you read a crazy study on the internet, you go figure out where it came from. You read the source material because sometimes it is BS.
Right?
So you can see the word science in there. You can see the word experiment or research. And those are great buzzwords. But you need to, in order to really live science, you need to be a skeptic. Definitely.
I like to science people. I hope that it makes them education their brains, because science is important for education and it leads to learn stuff. Did that make sense? Is everybody listening to me now?
Yep, gotcha.
Did I sound important?
You're preaching to the choir. Oh.
Good gracious. All right, everyone. It's 10:45 here on the California coast. The coast with the most awesome baseball team. Go Giants. Go Giants.
Best baseball team, and we're 2 out of 3 science news podcast hosts believe we should continue to suffer fools. Good night, everybody.
Oh my God! Don't bring it down to that.
I didn't actually.
That's how I'm walking out the door.
Fools. All right, you can walk out the door with that hat on. I'm just gonna do it my own way. I like to dance. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed the post show. I hope you enjoyed the real show. This is all just a lot of stuff. You guys in the chat room, there's a lot of typing going on, so I hope you guys stay up and chat a little bit longer. Have some fun. Thanks once again, and Science Island, TWIS Minion, Hangout tomorrow night. Right, Ed Dyer, I believe he's still there. Ed from Connecticut. Science Island, TWIS Minion Hangout tomorrow. And I believe it's at 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern. And then Halloween's on Friday. Lots of fun. If you're in the Bay Area, it's going to be raining. There is the AT&T Bay Area, the Bay Area Science Festival will be at the AT&T Park for Discovery Days. It's going to be a bit rainy, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's not supposed to rain on Saturday, so it should be fine.
Hope not. Hopefully it'll be a good science day of fun on Saturday. What else is going? Is there anything else going on, Sciencey? We have a show next week. I hope you come back.
Skibidi-wah.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Take care and have a wonderful, wonderful haunted Halloween because ghosts are science. See? Bye.